I'm Nancy McDonald, and I own Indelible Mark Publishing, and this is actually my 10th anniversary. 10 years ago I started the company, and actually we are a partnership because we're about to publish our 11th book, Laurence Overmire, and that's what he's going to read from today. They will be available for pre-order on his birthday, this Thursday, and they will be officially released on September 11th. And that is fitting because this book is called New York Minute, an actor's memoir. 30 years in the making. We also have other books out on that table, but this is the one we're here for today. So I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to be reading some selections from this, and I thought I'd start off by just reading the first two paragraphs of the preface, which kind of sets up the whole book. So this is autobiographical, very close to my heart. So here we go. This is the preface. Shortly after graduating from the University of Minnesota with an MFA in acting, and having completed a one-year Bush Fellowship as a professional actor at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I got married. After a short honeymoon, my wife and I headed to New York City to begin a new life adventure in the spring of 1982. I was 24 years old. We first stayed in an actor friend's apartment in Washington Heights, overlooking the George Washington Bridge and the Hudson River. It was a great view, but the neighborhood outside the back door was part of a very gritty Harlem, a huge change from the comfortable suburban milieu of middle America with which we were accustomed. The incredibly fast pace of the city was exhausting. We would come home after a day of subway riding and collapse. It took our bodies about 2 weeks to acclimate. Now, the first poem I want to read is that first entrance into New York, coming from the University of Minnesota. It's called Crossing the Hudson. The possibility of a new world loomed in front of me as I crossed for the first time over the George Washington Bridge. Coming from a small town in Ohio, newly married, both excitement and trepidation filled me with a sense of the momentous. The strange would become known, and in time familiar. And what would happen to me here, I knew for sure, would alter the relation of every star and far-flung galaxy to every atom that had fixed itself into the center of my being. As I pulled myself out of the safe cocoon of my trusted automobile and closed the door sharply with just the slightest hesitation, I took the first step on this new parallel of latitude, leaving behind the innocence of my nativity while boldly embracing the mystery of what was yet to be or not to be. For that, you see, is always the question. And this next poem follows shortly after that one. It's called This One Place. The world is here in this one place. We are in touch with all that makes this human drama so compelling. Music, art, theater, history, education, law, architecture, finance, government, industry, all is at its best and all is at its worst here. The great outstretched arms of human achievement punctuate the skyline, proudly proclaiming the new birth of freedom. You can feel the elation of passionate lovers coupling in the neon night, dreaming of an infinite possibility. Every blasphemous emotion that anyone has ever felt struggles to survive and be recognized here. The suffering of so many tormented souls languishes on every sidewalk and every back alley. People of every out-of-way place, of every size and color, speak 1,000 different languages, trying to find the common bond that makes us all one. You cannot walk these streets without confronting some heretofore unknown aspect of yourself. Look around you. Listen. be aware. This is New York, intoxicating and alluring, offering itself up to your most insightful introspection. Savor the experience. Feel what it is to be human and alive. So I was very fortunate when I went to New York as an actor to be cast in a couple of shows right away. I first worked at the Delacourse Theater in Central Park in the New York Shakespeare Festival production of Don Juan. And shortly after that, I was cast in Amadeus on Broadway, directed by Sir Peter Hall and starring Frank Langella and Mark Hamill. And this poem is about that theater, the Broadhurst Theater, where that show was done. That's Amadeus, the Broadhurst Theater. The foot touches down, plants itself on an old board, not any old board, a board embedded in Broadway history. The first step, no less than a child's brave abandoning, having overcome the laws of gravity. I look around, a sea of red, velvet seats, draped in balconies of admiration, applause, and celebration. They come to welcome me, the spirits of ages past, decked in the tricks of their costume trade, made up out of the imaginations of centuries-old bards and two-bit players, seemingly dead, but ever resurrected for just one more commanding performance. They have had their time here, too. Humphrey Bogart, Helen Hayes, Vincent Price, Rosalind Russell, Joel Grey, Ingrid Bergman, Colleen Dewhurst, Katharine Hepburn, Christopher Reeve, and many others will follow me in the long procession, the seconds that spill from extraordinary clocks in days to come. Dustin Hoffman, Jason Alexander, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Jerry Seinfeld, Ian McKellen, Helen Mirren, Daniel Radcliffe, Al Pacino, Tom Hanks. You know them if you paid attention. You feel their presence. You honor the experience, the gift that has been handed to you through no fault of your own and trusted to your keeping. Now, New York is a lot of different things. My experience had its ups and its downs, and there were some really trying times too, things that were unexpected. This next poem is called Subway Rider. This is a true story. The man was big, dark-complected, of some unknown nationality or another, hanging onto the pole drilled to the floor, the olive green of his drab fatigue suggesting a military code of mind, perhaps. The train trekking down the line, beating time to the bump and grind of sad music, humming 'neath the sundown streets of the New York City night. The businessman sat across from me, legs folded neatly at the knees, short trimmed hair and black-rimmed specs, focused intently on the Wall Street Journal, numbers apparently whipping through his brain a notch or two faster than the speed of sound. Pulling into the station, nothing seemed amiss, the train jolting to its usual stop, but the big man lurched, accidentally or not, his foot moving forward through the businessman's paper, a violent though brief burst of rage that left the spectacles dangling, shock on the clean-shaven face, dignity decked without warning. No one moved, stunned, not sure exactly what had taken place in the New York blink of an eye. We watched, not comprehending, as the big man calmly exited the train and made his way down the platform, the doors closing behind him with a swoosh. Okay, we'll finish up with this one last poem. This is good old New York, and This kind of sums up how I feel about New York. You love it, you hate it. There's no escaping the mad, impassioned voice of freedom crying from its streets, the hold it takes upon your heart. From the quiet oasis of Central Park to the honking blast of Broadway, from the proud progressive stateliness of Rockefeller Center to the broken bottle wasteland of the Bowery. From the cloister's quiet contemplation to the swirling artistry of the Guggenheim, from the bohemian-lined, tree-lined streets of the Greenwich Village lanes to the posh, pretentious shops of the Upper East Side, from the cavernous vault of Wall Street to the Empire State Building, the Chrysler, Madison Square Garden, Lincoln Center, and the Met, and the ghostly place on the island's southwest corner, where twin towers once stood like sentinels, left a hole in the city's heart. Memories, dreams, and lost ambitions New Yorkers will never forget. From Queens' ethnic neighborhoods to Brooklyn's fabled bridge, to the house that Ruth built, buried in the hot, molten center of the Bronx, to the yearning howl of Harlem that refuses to be ignored. This is America, like it or not. This is the place where liberty stands, boldly casting its light upon the world's darkest waters. No matter when you leave, you'll always come back. Its memory stings and suckles, the cold, fresh of slap of humanity full in the face, honest and true. If there is to be a future, spanned like so many bridges across the narrow straits of our divide, that future is New York. Thank you. Is that okay?
We have some info for you about the new book, so I'll pass that on as well.
I'm from New York and I agree with everything you said.
Oh, thank you. You get it. Are you native New York? Oh, right.
Born in the Bronx.
Oh, good.
I came here in '68 for my residency and fell in love with the city. And here I am.
There's a lot to love here.
Oh, yes, very livable.
Yes, thank you for being a very nice audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.